Welcome, everyone, to my forecast for the 2024 U.S. Senate elections. So, here is where we stand right now. We have 51 Democrats, 49 Republicans. In 2020, it used to be 50-50, and Kamala Harris was always the tie-breaking vote because that is the constitutional duty of the vice president, is that in the event of a tie, they are the tie-breaking vote. But in 2022, the Democrats gained a seat. Now we're at 51-49, still a very divided Senate. And here is how I think it's going to play out in 2024. So we're going to talk about various races that are either competitive or they're interesting in a different way. So we're gonna talk about, first of all, we're gonna talk about Maryland, which I think is interesting, but I don't think is gonna actually move anywhere because Larry Hogan, very popular governor from the state of Maryland, he recently rebuked Donald Trump after he endorsed him. Trump endorsed Larry Hogan, and Larry Hogan's like, I don't support you. So that's obviously a clear strategy. Maryland is one of the bluest states in the country, so if he just, accepts an endorsement from Trump, he probably has a better chance of winning by continuing to distance himself from him. But on the other hand, you'll have a lot of MAGA Republicans that are pissed off and may decide to just not really participate in the election. So it's like, it's a balancing act. If you're a Republican running in a blue state, even if you're very popular, it's still, you're very liberal. That's the only way you were able to get in the first place. So I just don't think that Larry Hogan has a realistic chance of winning, even though it's interesting and it's a race to look out for. He'll probably be within 10%, which I guess for a Republican running in a place like Maryland is good. But if for anyone other than Larry Hogan, it would probably be like 20, 25, maybe even 30-point difference. But that's what I think with that. And then also Virginia is another race where Tim Kaine is running for re-election. I don't see that state flipping either. I think that is a very safe blue seat as well. Maybe not as safe as Maryland, but I expect him to win by at least 5 points. And even though on the presidential level, it's looking a lot more interesting, it looks like a true toss-up this time around between Trump and Biden. But on the as far as the Senate's concerned, I think it will be a split ticket. I think that the on the presidential level, it's going to be a lot closer than what we see on the Senate. I mean, senators, there is a very strong incumbency advantage when it comes to the Senate, and I think that's going to hold in the state of Virginia. So let's go up the East Coast here. I think Pennsylvania. That's an interesting one. You have Bob Casey Jr. running against David McCormick. McCormick is definitely, in my opinion, a stronger candidate than Dr. Oz was during the other election that happened recently in Pennsylvania. But I think that's also going to hold blue. I think there's a chance that's going to flip. Definitely a stronger chance than Virginia and much stronger chance than Maryland. But I think that's also going to stay Democrat. Ohio is an interesting one also. I think this is actually the first one where I'm going to predict a Republican flip. I think Sherrod Brown is going to lose to Bernie Moreno because I just think that Ohio is becoming such of a more Republican stronghold than it has in, that's just been the trend that we've been seeing recently. The consistent polling average that Trump has been having in Ohio is like +7. I think that there's a very strong Republican base in that state, and I think they are going to turn out, and they are going to vote out Sherrod Brown, and that's going to leave us on a baseline of 50-50. I mean, this map clearly benefits the Republicans because most of the seats that are up for re-election, the toss-up seats, they are in states that a Democrat currently holds and not a Republican. States like Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, like there really aren't any vulnerable seats that are Republicans having where it's like, oh no, it could actually flip. Like these are all, like pretty much the Democrats have to like hope that they hold every single seat that they currently have, and that is really the only way that they have, that the chance that they have in maintaining control of the Senate. And in this case, if it's 50-50, they have to hope that Joe Biden wins re-election so that Kamala Harris can once again be the tiebreaker. So there's a lot of things to, consider with that. But I think, at the very least, it's going to be 50-50. And then we go to other states. Wisconsin is the seat currently held by by Tammy Baldwin is up for grabs. Eric Hovde is the Republican challenger. He is a businessman, banker, endorsed by President Trump. The primary still technically isn't over, but he's the likely person to get that nomination. I think regardless of who the Republican nominee even is, I think Tammy Baldwin has a good shot at win. I mean, if regardless of what, I think Wisconsin is going to be within a point and a half between Trump and Biden, and that gives enough wiggle room for Baldwin to eke out a victory, because even though split ticket voting is not necessarily as common as it was 10, 20 years ago, we are seeing a bit of a resurgence in it, and I think that is going to play out in states like Virginia and Wisconsin, and also Michigan. I think that the Democrat is going to win. It's an open seat because the incumbent is retiring. I think Slotkin, she has a very good chance at getting that spot. The Republican primary, the Justin Amash is in there. Mike Rogers is another candidate. Between the two of them, they're the most likely to get the nomination. I think regardless of who it is, though, I still think it's going to play out the same exact way, especially if it's Justin Amash, because he is not very popular with the MAGA Republicans. But I guess, when push comes to shove, they probably would vote for him, like the MAGA people. And, they'd rather have him, they would vote Republican down ticket with Trump on the ballot. And I think that's really what it is with Ohio. I think that would be, with Trump actually being on the ballot, it's going to be a strong, the Senate race is going to, the candidate for that is going to get a strong boost. I think it is going to be close in Michigan and Wisconsin, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough for the Republican to actually get a win. Minnesota, I think, is safe. I don't even think that's even worth talking about too much. I don't think there's really much of a chance of that flipping. So let's go up to Montana, actually, because that is another state that I am predicting that Republicans are going to flip, held by Jon Tester, who is kind of a moderate, conservative Democrat, but at the end of the day, he is someone who is voting with Biden most of the time and voting with Democrats, very rarely splitting off from them and, really doing anything Republican or conservative in the Senate. So I think, considering Montana is a 20-plus Trump state, that's what happened in 2020, his margin is going to be similar in 2024. I find it very hard to imagine Jon Tester being able to hold on. Even though he was able to in 2018, I think we've become even more polarized and divisive. And, while it may be a different story if Montana was like a swing state, even if it was in 5 points of, Trump and Biden, I think a 20-plus state, I just don't see that in this current political climate. I really don't. So I think at the very least, I think that Republicans are going to win the Senate. They are going to gain control of the Senate regardless of what happens on the presidential level. But I'm not done yet. I think there's a couple of other flips that are going to happen here. So West Virginia is another one. West Virginia is currently held by Joe Manchin, who is retiring. Jim Justice is the Republican nominee who famously retired, or he didn't retire. He left the Democratic Party and switched to Republican. And he is a very popular governor, and West Virginia is just even more extreme than Montana in the sense that it's just I think Trump won it by 40 points or something like that against Joe Biden, so I don't think the chance of a Democrat winning, plus, Joe Manchin, because he was, known in West Virginia and he was there for a while, I think even Joe Manchin, though, if he was running, would not really have much of a chance at this point, so it's 52-48 right now. That's the way I see it. And as far as other flips, though, I think that we are going to see the Republican win in Nevada. So it's Jackie Rosen versus Sam Brown. I think that Republican Sam Brown is going to defeat Jackie Rosen because Nevada's looking like a very, very strong flip for Trump, and I think that's only going to benefit the Republican candidate down ballot, and it's going to be, I mean, it's regardless, Nevada's always a competitive Senate race, even though the Democrats have been winning pretty often in recent years. It's been just within a cunt's hair, so I see Nevada being another flip here. So we got 53-47. And then finally Arizona. It's interesting because Kari Lake, people talk about Kari Lake and how she's an awful candidate and she can't win and this and that. But every time that she has run for office, it's been so close. When she ran for governor, it was within less than 8%. So I don't think that... I think people are underestimating Kari Lake, and considering that the Arizona's looking like another strong performance for the Republican Party and for Donald Trump on the presidential level, I think that is going to benefit Kari Lake down ticket. I don't think there's going to be too many Trump-Gallego split ticket voters. So I think, this is my final prediction here. I think we're going to 54 Republicans, 46 Democrats. That would give Republicans enough, especially if Trump is reelected. Therefore, he sets the agenda and that the Republican Party is in control. Even if you have a couple of Republicans like Susan Collins in Maine and some other, moderate liberal Republicans that, fairly often deviate from the party, I think that 54 seats will be enough wiggle room so that even if they have, especially if, the White House is Republican, you can have 4 Republicans break off, and it will still be enough for them to get their shit passed and get it through. The Supreme Court is really the more important thing here. There was a lot of pressure for all 3 of the liberal justices to retire so that Biden can, since the Senate is still Democrat, they see the writing on the wall. They see the Senate flipping. The Senate, at this point, actually, there's a higher chance of the Senate being Republican than even on the presidential level of there being of Trump getting reelected. So I think that the Supreme Court is going to be the real story here. Is there going to be any vacancies open, especially from a liberal justice? But I can even see someone like Clarence Thomas retiring, and a couple other, Alito's getting up there also in age. I think he's like 73 or something like that. So it's possible that if whoever the president is, there will be at least 1 or 2 Supreme Court vacancies during those 4 years. So, but imagine if we get a 7-2 conservative majority, or even an 8-1. Imagine 8-1. It's very possible. It actually is. I mean, we'll see. But this is my final predictions for the Senate. I think the most likely ones of me possibly being wrong. I think the most vulnerable ones. I would say Ohio, Sherrod Brown does still have a chance of winning, so that could be blue, but I'm still very confident about it being red. Arizona is the other one that I think has a chance of going blue, but I still, I feel very strong about this map right here. So that's my Senate forecast. I guess I could do a House forecast, but realistically, of all the, because every, the way that works with a House, every race is up for grabs. And there's a lot of swing districts, and it's gonna. There's no way I'm realistically gonna come up with like a number that will really be accurate, because I can't really keep track of all the races. Like there's probably like 50 or so swing seats, so I don't know. I'll see what I do about the House, but this is the Senate. Let me know if there's any ones that you agree or disagree with. And who do you want to win the Senate? I want to know that as well.